Hi, following the big announcements of Resident Evil 4 Remake and Street Fighter 6, we got some more information on these titles, along with details on the long announced Resident Evil Village DLC, and a general glimpse on where the series will be headed in the future. Before I go into all the details of what these announcements mean, I want to thank you for checking out my video. This is a tiny channel with now under 1000 subscribers, and I would really appreciate if you could subscribe and check out my other videos. Thank you so much. With that out of the way, let's talk about the most surprising announcement. Resident Evil 8 and the new story DLC are turning the game into third-person perspective. So the main campaign will have an option where you can choose to play in third person instead of first person, but the new Shadows of Rose DLC is actually third person only, so no option for first person at all. Over the years, a lot of people have voiced their distaste for the first person Resident Evil games ever since the series tried it with RE7. The people have spoken, and this seems to be Capcom's acknowledgement that they were wrong in introducing it. In the same presentation, we also saw a tiny gameplay section of the Resident Evil 4 remake, confirming that this game will stick to the perspective that it first introduced to the series. For Resident Evil 4 remake to remain third person was always the most likely scenario, but a game changing from first to third person through DLC is pretty much unheard of. For me, Resident Evil Village was one of the worst entries in the series, but even I will at least try how it plays in third person now. I mean, I already own it, not that I would buy it again for that. I also like how they seem to be trying something new with the Rose DLC apart from the perspective change, and I also have high expectations for the RE4 remake, since there are rumors that this one is from the same team that made Remake 2. I had this tiny, totally unjustified hope that Capcom could actually remake Resident Evil 4 with fixed camera angles and tank controls. Of course, I always kind of knew that would not happen, but wouldn't that be sick? I 100% believe that the next Resident Evil games will stick to the third person perspective. No matter if it will be Resident Evil 9, Revelations 3 or another remake. And to be honest, I'm not against it. I think first person worked really well in Resident Evil 7, especially since the start of the game focused more on exploration and stealth. But later in the game and in RE8 I noticed its downsides. I believe a core part of the classic Resident Evil formula is the constant decision making. Do you want to engage in combat and waste your ammunition, or do you want to avoid the confrontation by slipping past the enemies? I actually think this kind of decision making / risk and reward gameplay has never been better than in the original 3 Resident Evil games on PlayStation 1, where every room feels like a small puzzle for you to master over time. That's probably the reason why people still replay those classic games today, but what I mean also works in the third person Resident Evil games. I think the key factor is the increased field of view that allows you to see what's going on around your character, allowing you to control a room full of enemies and your own positioning way better.
They're everywhere.
They probably switched to first person so that the game feels a lot more immersive and scary, cause there's no barrier anymore. You don't see your character being attacked by a monster, but the monster directly attacks your field of view. And especially since the beginning of Resident Evil 7 was so intense, it worked really well there. But once you get your weapon, both Resident Evil 7 and 8 feel more like a normal first-person shooter than those classic Resident Evil games, which most likely was also done to improve playability of Resident Evil 7's VR mode. For example, I'm quite certain that I killed every single enemy that I encountered in Resident Evil Village, while avoiding enemies and saving as much ammunition as possible was always the way to go in previous games. They actually committed so much to this new way of playing the game that they created a main character that does not have a face. Of course, the character model has a face, but in character art and even in the new third person mode, the face is always hidden. So I feel that the first person games are designed with a focus on combat instead of decision making, which I hope will be reversed with the Rose DLC and other future Resident Evil games. While VR is also coming to Resident Evil Village once the PSVR 2 is released, I 100% think that third person is the future of the series from now on. But which perspective do you actually prefer in Resident Evil? Here's my personal ranking, so let me know yours in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and check out my other videos on more content on Resident Evil and other horror games. And as I said earlier, you can still become one of my first 1000 subscribers. I really appreciate the support. Take care. Bye.